Alone at her ex's wedding, she discovered an unexpected love revealed by the groom's brother. Jenna stood in a sea of shimmering silk and joyous laughter, utterly frozen, like a lone candle in a bustling room. The clinking of glasses surrounded her, couples swirled on the dance floor, and here she was, a forgotten relic of a relationship marked by faded memories. Daniel, her high school sweetheart, stood at the end of the aisle, suit polished and dreams realized, while she battled the cold tightness in her chest. As the vows unfurled, she felt every word hit her like a sledgehammer. This was the life they had planned together, now shared with another. She scanned the venue, decorated in delicate fairy lights that flickered with the rhythm of their love story. Her head throbbed. Was it the music or the crushing weight of nostalgia? Against the backdrop of jubilant couples, her heart screamed for the life she thought was hers, but now felt like a cruel joke. Resentment bubbled inside. Had she been the fool all along? If he had truly loved her, wouldn't she have been standing beside him, a smile gracing her face instead of the bitter twist of her mouth? A frantic surge of questions clawed at her. Shouldn't she be happy for him? Shouldn't she reconcile her feelings and save face? Swiping away the unwanted tears, she turned to find a quieter corner of the hall, desperately seeking solitude. Her mind raced. Was it just the societal norms suffocating her? Or was it fear? Fear of being left and forgotten, and that persistent inner voice nagging her that maybe she wasn't worthy of love after all. As a teacher, she was good at crafting narratives, but her own life story felt broken, tangled in unfulfilled dreams. Before she could spiral further, she collided with Jake, Daniel's brother. Scruffy hair framed his face, and a playful smirk danced upon his lips. "You look like you could use one of those overly complicated cocktails," he quipped, pointing at the bar laden with flair. Jenna let out an involuntary laugh despite herself, tension easing a fraction. Their connection felt refreshing, like fresh air in a smoke-filled room. "Why would you say that?" she countered, suppressing an appreciative smile. Beneath his casual demeanor, there was a raw honesty that intrigued her. This man wasn't just a product of his brother's life. He was real, struggling to break through the noise of convention, much like her. They stumbled into deeper conversation, sharing snippets of their lives, the pressures, the disappointments, the challenge of being true to oneself in a world that often demanded conformity. Jenna couldn't help but let the walls slowly come down. It felt liberating, yet terrifying. As they spoke, a nagging fear lurked in her mind, taunting her with thoughts of Daniel's perfect life and the unseemly truth about what she had lost. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The evening wore on, but Jenna's heart felt heavy, a tumult of rising emotions and unresolved truths. She overheard snippets of family gossip, revealing cracks in the facade of Daniel's perfect life. The more she learned, the more the hurt twisted inside her. Each revelation threatened to fracture her notion of love. Just as the night's joy reached a peak, an argument erupted. Jake confronted Daniel, igniting buried family tensions. Jenna froze, caught between a past she craved to understand and a potential future beckoning from Jake's soulful gaze. Dare she step forward, revealing her own past pain? The balance felt precarious, the edge of decision looming. What was she willing to risk for a future that shimmered like the lights above, yet felt oh so fragile? Jenna's heart raced as she stood frozen, witnessing the escalating confrontation between Jake and Daniel. The once jubilant atmosphere began to distort, the fairy lights flickering like a warning. She felt like an outsider peering into a family drama that was escalating into chaos. Every word exchanged between the brothers chipped away at her already precarious emotional state. Daniel's face flushed with anger, while Jake's expressions betrayed a mixture of frustration and disappointment. What had she stumbled into? The laughter that once surrounded her felt miles away. The couple's dancing looked like shadows fading in the flurry of conflict. In that moment, the reality of her own life weighed heavily on her, a life stagnant, shackled by memories and unspoken words. She realized she had to move, to decide. Would she blend back into the background or step into the light, confront the shadows of her past, and perhaps even explore what was emerging in the form of Jake? As Daniel's voice raised, punctuating the air like a gunshot, Jenna instinctively took a step forward, the heat of the moment igniting an unexpected resolve within her. "Hey, maybe we should take a breath," she interjected, surprising herself with the firmness in her tone. The room fell silent, all eyes converging on her, but her gaze locked onto Jake's, searching for support. "Thanks for the help, Jenna," Jake said, his voice a low rumble racked in gratitude. There was something about the way he looked at her, a depth that suggested understanding beyond words. She felt an unfamiliar warmth swell in her chest, igniting a flicker of confidence that had been long extinguished. Communicating her feelings, she realized, had become a crucial step toward healing. "I don't know what's going on between you two, but maybe you can resolve it without tearing each other apart," Jenna continued, feeling the audience's tension shift. Something deep inside urged her to embrace this moment, to risk vulnerability. Determined now, she took a deep breath. If she was going to move forward, she had to confront her past. "Daniel, we may not have ended on the terms we expected, but that doesn't mean we can't support each other still. I want you to be happy. I really do," she said, her voice steady despite the tumult within. With these words, a strange weight lifted, illuminating a path toward self-acceptance. The silence hung between them before Daniel turned to her, surprise flickering across his features. "I didn't expect. Thank you." His acknowledgement felt less like gratitude and more like the shedding of a shield. She stepped back, heart hammering, waiting for the fallout, but somehow strangely empowered. Jake took a step closer to her. "You're a brave one, aren't you?" His admiration echoed through the chaos, a balm that soothed her frayed nerves. That connection, they were both grappling with familial expectations, the desire to forge unique paths against deeply entrenched obligations. Jenna wrestled with her thoughts. Maybe she could explore the possibilities with Jake more seriously. The tenderness she had dismissed was a reminder that her story wasn't over. Yet the pull of her emotional scars whispered warnings in her ear. Could she really step into the unknown again? The argument simmered down, leaving a thick veil of uncertainty in the air. Tension still thickened around them. Jenna exhaled, caught between fresh hope and her insecurities. Would she allow herself to dive deeper into this connection, or would fear pull her back into solitude? As the lights twinkled above and laughter began to thaw the icy atmosphere again, Jenna looked between Daniel and Jake, her choice looming before her. Am I ready to face love once more? Everything felt fragile, yet there was unwavering determination rising within her. Her thoughts moved to the future, bright yet undefined. Then came the heartbeat of realization. Was it Jake who represented the possibility of renewal, or was it merely the courage she discovered in herself? The next moment could very well define her life. "I'm not sure what happens next," Jenna voiced softly, but her heart pounded with a thrilling uncertainty. Suddenly, Jake squeezed her shoulder, cutting through the noise with a simple gesture that felt monumental. The time had come for her decision, but with it came acute awareness. Confronting the past would demand more than bravery. It would demand an unmasking of her heart. Would she venture forth, risking it all for a leap of faith? As Jenna turned her gaze from the brothers to the dance floor, anticipation crackled like static in the air. This story was just beginning. Jenna inhaled deeply, the scent of blooming jasmine mingling with the lingering tension in the air. The conflict had diffused, but the palpable weight of unsaid thoughts still pressed down on her. Jake's presence beside her provided a small lighthouse in the chaotic emotional storm. He shifted slightly, breaking the silence that encased them, which felt both comforting and daunting. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice a mix of concern and earnestness, pushing her to disentangle herself from her spiraling thoughts. "I think so. Just trying to process everything," she replied, battling the torrent of uncertainties within her. Taking a step back from the chaos had felt empowering, but now it threatened to collapse into an avalanche of self-doubt. Jenna felt exposed, as if she had revealed her vulnerabilities to the world, and a part of her longed to retreat into the safety of her shell. As they stood watching couples twirl on the dance floor, Jenna's mind swirled around her past. The fear of failure and the lingering effects of old relationships haunted her still. This wasn't the first time she had faced a pivotal moment. Daniel's voice echoed in her head, a reminder that nothing ever felt settled between them. What if she couldn't truly start anew? Jake turned slightly to face her. "You showed a lot of courage back there. Not many people would step into such a volatile situation." She glanced at him, meeting his gaze, reading the admiration etched in the lines on his face. The warmth fluttering in her chest threatened to stoke that flicker of confidence she had unearthed earlier. "I didn't want anyone to get hurt, or for a miscommunication to escalate into something worse." "Sometimes it takes that first step to move forward," he remarked, an understated wisdom reflected in his expression. "I guess it's true for relationships, too." Jenna's heart skipped a beat. Was he suggesting something deeper between them? As she deliberated the possibilities, her mind bombarded her with questions. Was she prepared to risk heartache again? Was this moment with Jake merely a distraction from her unresolved feelings for Daniel? Yet, as Jenna looked at Jake, really looked at him, doubt transformed into determination. She had diverted a moment that felt explosive. Perhaps it was time to examine this strange connection that had sparked in the wake of conflict. The truth was, navigating her own emotions had become a priority, but she needed to be honest about what she felt. "Jake," she started, her voice faltering on the edge of revelation, "I need to be honest. I'm unsure of what I want right now, but I don't want to push you away. You've been different, in a good way." His brows furrowed slightly, an understanding emotion crossing his face. "We can take it slow. It doesn't have to be complicated," he responded gently. "Let's just enjoy this time together, however that looks." A rush of relief flooded her. The pressure to define everything dissipated. It was a reminder that she could hold space for her feelings without being overwhelmed by them. "Okay," she breathed out, allowing a small smile to break through her uncertainty. "Let's see where this takes us." Jenna felt lighter, ready to explore a connection that felt tantalizingly new, yet so familiar. But even as hope began to bloom, the shadows of her past lingered, ready to threaten her newfound resolve. The atmosphere shifted as music swelled, couples becoming silhouettes in a dreamlike haze. As Jenna and Jake began to sway gently, the beat steady and inviting, she felt exhilarated but also vulnerable. Then, from the corner of her eye, she caught Daniel watching them. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of something akin to pain and understanding. In that moment, a knot twisted in her stomach. Internally, Jenna grappled with a narrative unraveling before her eyes. This moment was not just about her and Jake, but also about confronting the past and what it meant for her future. Could she navigate this new territory and still honor the ties she shared with Daniel? Would her past cast a long shadow over her budding connection with Jake? The music played on, heavy with unanswered questions and uncertainty. But one thing was inevitable. Jenna had opened a door she couldn't close. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a new question formed, harsh yet liberating. When the music stopped, how would she want to define herself? The music ebbed, wrapping around Jenna like a thick fog. She pulled away from Jake, heart racing with conflicting emotions. Each note held a promise, yet the reality of Daniel's gaze haunted her. His presence served as a reminder of the unresolved questions still lingering in the air around them, like the low hum from the speakers. "Want to grab some fresh air?" Jake suggested, sensing her unease. The sound of laughter and dancing faded as they stepped outside. The cool night air was a stark contrast to the warmth brewing inside, an immediate refreshment for her racing thoughts. "Yeah, that would be nice," she answered, grateful for the space to breathe. In the quiet, she tried to make sense of the swirling emotions. With every inhale, she willed herself to separate the affection she felt for Jake from the suffocating ties to her past. They found a secluded area, straying far from the tumult of the celebration. Shadows danced in the lights strung overhead, a serene beauty surrounding them that should have felt comforting. But inside, Jenna wrestled with her feelings. "I didn't mean to pull you away," Jake said softly, leaning against the wall beside her, his attempt to ease the tension palpable. "I just want you to be comfortable." Jenna labored for a response, aware that honesty was her only path forward. "It's not you. It's everything. I feel like I'm caught between what I want and what I've had." Jake shifted closer, his expression attentive. "You don't have to sort it all out right now," he reassured her. "Let's just talk about what's right in front of us." She searched his eyes, searching for any sign of impatience or discomfort, but found none. Instead, she noticed the way he leaned in, as if willingly offering support without judgment. A flicker of warmth ignited within her. This was vulnerability, but so was sinking deeper into her regrets. "What if I'm not ready, Jake? What if I'm just using us as a distraction?" She posed the question, feeling the weight of it settle in the air between them. "Then we take it slow. No pressure," he replied with sincerity. "It's okay to not have it all figured out." Her heart softened, a mix of gratitude and anxiety intertwining as the knot in her stomach loosened just slightly. "You're really different, you know that," she said, finally allowing herself to smile. Different in a really good way. Jake chuckled, and the sound was like a balm to her overworked mind. "I've had plenty of time to work on myself. I've learned the importance of listening, of showing up for people when they need it." His words rang with authenticity and wisdom, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that nestled in her past. She began to wonder if perhaps this was a moment of opportunity, a chance to learn not only about Jake, but herself as well. "You're making me consider things I've been too afraid to think about," Jenna admitted, her vulnerability now unfurling in a way she hadn't anticipated. "Such as?" he prompted, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. The openness in his demeanor made her feel safe enough to peel back the layers she usually kept hidden. "Like how I've been holding on to my past too tightly," she confessed. "I've let old relationships dictate my happiness." Jake nodded, encouragement sparking in his eyes. Breaking free from what holds you back can redefine who you want to be. It's not a betrayal of your past, it's an evolution of yourself. His words tangled with Jenna's thoughts, each syllable intertwining with a part of her she had yet to uncover. This feeling of possibility, the prospect of reshaping her narrative, hinted at a stronger self waiting just below the surface. But just as the waves of inspiration began to rise, a shadow crossed the glow of the outdoor lights. Jenna's heart sank as she turned to see Daniel approaching, a serious expression on his face, and she felt every step echoing the weight of her past creeping back in. "Jenna," he started, a hesitant vulnerability in his tone. Sudden panic shot through her, intermixing with her resolve. Was she ready to face what he had to say, or would it unravel the progress she was just beginning to make with Jake? In this moment, Jenna had to decide. Would she allow the shadow of Daniel to eclipse the light of whatever might blossom with Jake? Or would she confront both her past and her future head-on? All eyes were on her, and the music of her heart raced toward a crescendo she couldn't ignore. And as Daniel paused, the moment hung in the air like a ticking clock, waiting for her answer. How would she reshape the melody of her life now? Jenna's breath caught in her throat as Daniel's eyes searched hers, the storm of emotions swirling inside her, battling for dominance. The weight of the past anchored her, a heavy chain pulling her down, even as the allure of new beginnings beckoned from the sidelines. She could feel Jake's presence beside her, a reminder of the warmth that had sparked just moments ago, now threatened by the chilling memory of what Daniel represented. "Jenna, we need to talk. Daniel began, his voice steady but underlined with an edge she hadn't heard in a long time. The familiar cadence brought both an ache and a flicker of nostalgia, igniting fears she thought she was ready to face. How would she respond? Her eyes darted between Daniel and Jake. Jake was motionless, his expression remaining open and inviting. It was a lifeline she didn't know she needed. Was she truly ready to open the door to her past, or had she finally found the courage to walk through to something new? "Can we talk later?" Jenna's voice emerged steadier than she expected, cutting off Daniel's impending confession. I need a moment." She turned to Jake, vulnerability spilling from her like an unguarded stream. "I'm sorry," she murmured, feeling disoriented. "I didn't expect this." Jake's response was immediate, his gentle touch on her arm grounding her. "It's okay," he said quietly, his voice laced with understanding. "You don't owe anyone anything right now. You have every right to prioritize yourself." In that moment, Jenna could see a glimmer of truth. This wasn't just about Daniel. It was about her own journey toward reclaiming her sense of self, so often lost in the echo of someone else's narrative. She needed to stand firm, to establish boundaries she had previously neglected. But the pang of familiarity wrapped itself around her heart, and the agonizing weight of unspoken feelings made the decision harder. Daniel was the embodiment of everything she had struggled to escape, but equally, he was a mirror reflecting the insecurities she had been working to free herself from. "I've made some mistakes," Daniel said, continuing his approach, "but I want a chance to explain." "Just stop," Jenna interjected, her voice coming out firmer than she felt. "You don't get to decide how this goes anymore." With each word, she felt a surge of empowerment that pushed back against the years of doubt that had tangled around her like ivy. Daniel appeared taken aback, his expression shifting from uncertainty to resolve. "I don't expect you to forgive me just like that, but I'm here to make things right." Jenna's resolve wavered, though. Was it fair to confront the complexities of their history now? Would she be making a choice out of growth, or merely out of fear of the unknown that Jake represented? In her heart, she felt an awakening, a realization that despite the emotional turmoil, she was not the same person who had walked away from Daniel. She was stronger, aware of herself in a way that had eluded her. The fleeting connection she had tasted with Jake was like a new melody, awaiting her to embrace it fully. Understanding implies a willingness to listen, she pressed, the words firm yet measured. "What I need is for you to understand that I deserve to be happy, whether that's with you or not. I can't go back to who I was." Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. His vulnerability faded, replaced by a mask that showed the pain of realization. Jenna could see him reconsidering everything they once shared, and for a moment, compassion flickered in her chest. "Then let's talk," Daniel said finally, resignation palpable. "But not here, not now." The tension in the air ebbed slightly, but the shadows of unresolved emotions still clung to her. Behind her, Jake remained a steady presence, silently encouraging her to find clarity amidst the chaos. "Okay, Jenna finally replied, steeling herself. "But understand that I'm moving forward. I'm taking my life back, and I won't allow you or anyone else to control my happiness anymore." As she turned to Jake, his eyes held a mixture of hope and admiration that lifted her spirits. For the first time, Jenna realized the path ahead was hers to carve, free from the guilt of past ties. With a deep breath, she stepped into the uncertain light of the future, buoyed by the promise of becoming who she was meant to be, even amidst remnants of the life she had known. But the weight of her decision now hung in the air, drawing questions she hadn't faced yet. Would she truly be able to detach from her past, or was this confrontation merely laying the groundwork for deeper turmoil? The unresolved tension danced between the three of them, suggesting that the next steps would require more than just hope. They would need a reckoning, a moment where Jenna would ultimately decide who she wanted to become, as her heart pulsed with the rhythm of her new path. And as they stood there, a choice lay before them, trembling with possibilities. What would she choose now? Jenna's pulse quickened as she stood at the cusp of a decision that felt monumental. The noise of the world around her faded, leaving only the soft murmur of her own thoughts. Each heartbeat echoed the distance she had traveled, the struggles, the pain, the growth. In the chill of the moment, her vulnerabilities began to weave themselves into a tapestry of resolve. Jake remained nearby, a calm presence anchoring her in a sea of uncertainty. His patience was palpable, allowing Jenna the space she needed to navigate her conflicting emotions. Deep down, she felt a tremor of excitement wash over her, intoxicated by the current of possibility flowing between them. "Let's take a walk," Jake suggested, sensing her turmoil. His voice was a soothing balm, urging her toward clarity. As they moved away from the awkward confrontation, Jenna sensed Daniel's frustrated gaze follow them, but this time it didn't pierce her like a dart. She was reclaiming her narrative, defining her choices on her own terms. Each step felt liberating, drawing her further from who she had been. "Let's take a walk," Jake suggested, sensing her turmoil. His voice was a soothing balm, urging her toward clarity. As they moved away from the awkward confrontation, Jenna sensed Daniel's frustrated gaze follow them, but this time it didn't pierce her like a dart. She was reclaiming her narrative, defining her choices on her own terms. Each step felt liberating, drawing her further from who she had been with. Daniel and closer to the woman she was becoming. They strolled through an empty space outside, the fading sunlight casting golden hues across the ground. Jenna could almost feel the weight of her past lifting, a gentle reminder that she was no longer bound by old memories. "You seem lost in thought," Jake commented softly. The sincerity in his tone made her pause. "It's hard not to be," Jenna admitted, glancing back toward the building where Daniel lingered. "I didn't expect him to show up today, and now I have to reconcile all these feelings I didn't realize were still simmering beneath the surface." A thoughtful silence enveloped them, one that held the weight of understanding. "Sometimes the past has a way of resurfacing when we least expect it," Jake replied, his expression earnest. "But it's also a chance to reassess what we truly want. This could be your moment, Jenna." His words resonated within her. Perhaps the swirl of emotions was a call to action, not just a moment of confusion. Had she been so focused on Daniel that she hadn't fully embraced the new possibilities with Jake? "I know I'm still finding my footing," Jenna began, her voice steadying. "I need to step back and figure out how to bridge what's left of my past with my present. Daniel, he reminds me of the person I wanted to leave behind. But Jake, you embody everything I want in my future." Jake's smile widened, but it was tinged with a trace of concern. "I don't want to be a rebound, Jenna. You deserve space to heal and reflect." His honesty was refreshing, affirming the respect he had for her journey. It ignited a flicker of courage within Jenna. She wanted to pursue this new relationship, but not at the cost of her growth. "I appreciate that," she said, allowing her guardedness to dissipate a little. But I also feel drawn to you in a way that stirs something alive within me. I'm ready to explore that, just on my terms. A brief pause enveloped them as Jake processed her words. His brow furrowed slightly, a testament to the seriousness of her declaration. I can handle that, he replied, his voice both firm and soft. But I need you to promise that you'll take care of yourself first. Relationship growth requires self-growth. Jenna nodded, the weight of his request underscoring its importance. For the first time, she recognized that her development wasn't solely dependent on who she shared her life with. It was rooted in her own self-understanding and independence. "Thank you for seeing me, Jake," she whispered, feeling the solidity of their bond deepening. The elements of trust and understanding wrapped around them like a protective shield. Still, the echo of Daniel's confession loomed, a specter she couldn't ignore. "Maybe I need to confront him sooner than later," Jenna said, her voice gaining strength. "I won't let him overshadow my attempt to move forward." Jake's expression shifted to one of concern. "Do you think that conversation will help clarify things or just add more confusion?" "I don't know," Jenna admitted, "but it's necessary. I've spent too long avoiding truths and burying feelings. This is my chance to find closure." As they made their way back, Jenna felt an exhilarating mix of fear and empowerment. She was on the brink of not just confronting another person, but of stepping into her own power, unearthing the complexity of her relationships and desires. But would she find the strength to speak her truth, or would uncertainty hold her back? Jenna inhaled deeply, feeling alive and resolute, but also aware of the emotional hurdles ahead. The true test of her development was looming, and it beckoned her closer. What revelations awaited her as she prepared to face Daniel head-on and articulate the boundaries she so desperately needed to define? The air was thick with a sense of anticipation as Jenna prepared herself to confront Daniel. She had spent hours mentally rehearsing the conversation, the words both a shield and a weapon. Clad in a simple yet elegant dress, she felt beautiful, but it was the strength within her that garnered the most shine. Today wasn't about her past, it was about clarifying her future. In the vicinity of the grand venue where Daniel and his new fiancée stood ready for their vows, thoughts of Jake flickered in her mind. He'd given her the space to grow, nurtured her burgeoning confidence, and reminded her that her voice mattered. "Stay grounded," she whispered to herself, taking a deep breath that filled her chest with a clarifying coolness. She knew the conversation with Daniel would be charged with the weight of years, yet even the thought of it didn't shake her resolve. As she moved towards Daniel, her heart raced, not out of fear, but from the possibility of freedom that awaited on the other side of this confrontation. As Jenna neared the gathering crowd, she could see Daniel adjusting his tie, a token gesture of nervousness. Fake confidence shadowed by the truth they'd both evaded. "Jenna?" His voice, tinged with surprise, drew the gaze of the crowd briefly, including her own, bittersweet memories. They were at one point a pair, but standing here now, she felt like an entirely different person. "Hi, Daniel." Her greeting was calm, the sound of it feeling almost foreign, yet liberating. "I need to talk to you." A flicker of concern flashed across his face, but defensive walls quickly erected like a shield. "Is this about us? The past?" "It has to be." Jenna took a step closer, feeling a surge of bravery simmer like molten lava. "I need to say things I should have said a long time ago. I've been quiet for too long. You and I have shared history, but I can no longer let it define me. I want to move forward. I need closure." His eyes narrowed, a mixture of disappointment and regret swirling beneath the surface. For a moment, it felt as if time stood still, the world revolving around this crucial exchange. "You think walking away now will help you?" he challenged, crossing his arms defensively. "We have so much unfinished business." "Unfinished?" she echoed, feeling clarity pierce through the fog of doubt. "Unfinished is the very reason I'm here." I've been living in the echoes of our past while trying to build a life that doesn't include you. You're getting married, and part of that is letting go, for both of us." Jenna's voice surged with strength, each syllable carving out boundaries that had been neglected far too long. She'd spent years tiptoeing around Daniel's feelings, folding herself into shapes that felt wrong. But in this moment, she was solid. Daniel's gaze was pained, but Jenna saw realization dawn in his eyes. "This is about you moving on, isn't it?" "There you go," she replied, a flicker of pride igniting inside her. "It's time for both of us to be who we truly are, without being tethered to each other." Silence lingered between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Jenna could feel the crowd buzzing behind her, but all that mattered was this exchange, her proclamation of independence. "Maybe I was wrong holding on to a version of us that no longer exists," he eventually conceded, his tone softening. "I never wanted to hurt you." His admission hung in the air, vulnerable, not unlike the threads of their shared history unraveling in real time. "I know you didn't," Jenna said, her compassion for their past surfacing like a bomb. "I want you to be happy. It's time for me to find my own happiness too." The realization that they could step away from the ties binding them felt revolutionary. And as she turned to leave, the weight that had pressed upon her for so long began to lift. Yet as she walked away, a new tension coiled in her chest, a pang of excitement and fear as she thought of Jake and what awaited her in the uncharted territory of potential love. Would she be ready to let herself explore this new path? And was she truly prepared to embrace the risk of vulnerability again? The crowd began to disperse, and Jenna hesitated at the threshold, her heart racing. Had she truly resolved her past and transitioned into a brighter future? Would the journey with Jake provide the healing she sought, or would uncertainty return to cloud her path? It was time to find out. The next challenge loomed: how to embrace a relationship that promised growth while navigating the scars left behind. As Jenna made her way through the dissipating crowd, each step felt less like a leap into uncertainty and more like a deliberate march toward her own empowerment. The hushed whispers of the attendees fluttered past her, just background noise now. She was resolute, yet the exhilaration of liberation danced in sync with the anxiety she couldn't quite shake. She had decluttered her heart of Daniel, but was now faced with the question of what and who would fill that space. Jake had prompted her to seek clarity, to look inside herself and embrace the authentic version of Jenna that had been waiting in the wings for her to shine. His gentle nudges towards self-acceptance lingered in her thoughts, and she could almost feel his encouraging smile behind her as she stepped away from Daniel's shadow. The moment she stumbled into the cool evening air, a weight shifted. Freedom washed over her like a tide pulling back from the shore, cleansing, refreshing, and inviting. There was still fear, of course. The echo of what could happen made her nerves dance. Would she truly be able to open herself up to a new beginning with Jake? Her recent conversation with Daniel could easily veer into a memory that tormented instead of freed her. What if she fell back on old patterns, reverted to the comfort of the known? With Daniel stepped the shadows of her old self, timid, insecure, always seeking validation. As if the universe had heard her thoughts, the flickering lights of a nearby cafe caught her eye. The prospect of pulling her irresistible need for coffee into this pivotal moment felt right. She turned in that direction, allowing the familiar scent of brewed beans to usher her forward, and with each stride, her sense of autonomy solidified. Once inside, she approached the counter, allowing her mind to wander as she waited. The cafe thrummed with conversations, laughter, buzzing voices, the clinking of mugs. Moments like these, normal as they were, excited her. It was the real world, where everything was possible, including confronting her own heart. Grabbing a caffeine fix to combat the post-wedding blues, a teasing voice interrupted her thoughts. It cut through the cafe noise, drawing her attention instantly. She looked up to find Jake's brother, Nick, leaning casually against the counter, his signature grin making her heart flutter. Something like that, she replied, her smile involuntarily widening. Mind if I join you? He asked, tilting his head toward a two-seater table nearby. Sure, I was just thinking about life choices. The honesty surprised even her. As they settled down, Jenna could feel the buoyancy of their conversation, strange yet invigorating. Nick asked questions that dug deeper than small talk, and Jenna found herself weaving stories of her past, moments not merely defined by heartbreak, but instead as stepping stones toward becoming her true self. As they chatted, the ease of their companionship ignited a flicker of hope in her heart, a different kind of promise. What do you think you'll do next? Nick leaned in, genuinely curious, those engaging brown eyes watching her, assessing, encouraging. I want to explore new paths, maybe even take chances I've been afraid of, she confessed. The words tumbled from her lips, thrilling to say aloud. Like pushing myself in my career and, well, exploring what it means to open myself up again, especially after everything. Nick's expression softened as he nodded. You have that spark, Jenna. You just need to embrace it fully. Whatever you decide, you'll be just fine. His confidence in her resonated, igniting something long lost within. She sensed an unspoken connection forming, layered beneath their conversation, a chemistry that stirred like a whisper in a crowded room, beckoning her closer. But before she could savor the moment, doubt pricked at her, intruding like a persistent thought. Was she ready to open up to someone new? What would it mean for her relationship with Jake? Would she risk this budding connection for the memories of a man who'd once consumed her heart? Jenna took a deep breath, her resolve tested yet again. The universe was presenting choices. Would she choose the comfort of the familiar or plunge into the unknown? The question hung between them, heavy and palpable. The moment demanded clarity, but what she felt was most pressing was the realization that every decision came accompanied by the opportunity for growth. Emboldened, she leaned forward, surprised by the sudden vulnerability. What about you? What do you seek in all of this? He paused, studying her before he replied. Someone who can challenge me, keep me grounded, and perhaps show me how to break free too. Her heart raced at the implication. Would they both find their freedom together? But before they could dig deeper, the tension shifted as someone entered, stealing her attention. Jake. The collision of emotions ignited again, each representing different facets of her growth. What would this encounter mean for her emerging path? And would Jake's presence convince her that the hands of fate had more complexity than she ever imagined? Suspense gripped her as she turned to face him, knowing something vital was about to unfold. The moment Jake stepped into the cafe, every ounce of realization Jenna had been building came crashing against her. She hadn't anticipated the magnetic pull he still exerted over her, so palpable and familiar. The casual air of the cafe transformed into a tightrope of tension between them, each glance a calculation of what could be and what had been. Jake's eyes flicked toward her, momentarily locking on the vibrant connection she shared with Nick. A frown settled over his features, uninvited in the moment of joy she had been coaxing inside herself. He approached them, confident yet cautious, as if navigating a territory he thought he owned. Hey, Jenna, didn't expect to find you here, Jake began, the edge of forced casualness in his tone tearing at her resolve. Yeah, just grabbing a drink, she managed, acutely aware of the way time stretched into an uncomfortable pause. Nick shifted beside her, but she felt the strength of his presence subtly reassuring against Jake's tension. I see, Jake replied, his gaze flickering between Jenna and Nick. The unspoken dynamic hung heavy. She was standing on the precipice of her past and her potential future. During the awkward stretching silence, Jenna's heart raced as she wrestled with her feelings. Old habits tugged at her, whispering doubts about her self-worth in connection to Jake, even if they no longer reflected her true self. Had anything truly changed, or was she merely postponing the inevitable return to what was once familiar and safe? Jenna was just telling me about her plans, Nick interjected, his sunny demeanor acting as a buffer. She's ready to embrace new adventures, right? Right, she affirmed, the word resonating more powerfully than she had anticipated. Each syllable echoed her growth. Jake's brow furrowed, the hint of concern transforming to realization. And what kind of adventures are you looking for? His voice held an undercurrent of challenge, reminding her of the menacing shadow that had loomed over their past together. This wasn't just curiosity, it was a probing for commitment that she wasn't ready to confront. Jenna felt the heat rising, a cautious flame igniting within. I want to push myself. I want to do things that scare me, whether it's within my career or my personal life, she answered, pride swelling within her. It felt like she was dodging his assumptions, making an implicit claim that she was not bound to him any longer. Like what? He pressed, and she could sense the scrutiny behind his questions. Did he still see her as someone in need of validation from him? At that moment, she realized she was no longer in a position to justify herself. She was no longer the girl who shrank under Daniel's doubts or craved Jake's approval. Jake, I'm working on myself. I want to be true to who I am, and that means embracing new experiences without apologies. Like what? He pressed, and she could sense the scrutiny behind his questions. Did he still see her as someone in need of validation from him? At that moment, she realized she was no longer in a position to justify herself. She was no longer the girl who shrank under Daniel's doubts or craved Jake's approval. Jake, I'm working on myself. I want to be true to who I am, and that means embracing new experiences without apologies. Nick nodded supportively, a tactile boost against her insecurities. Jake's silence spoke volumes, as if he were weighing this version of Jenna against the one he had known. I'm really glad to hear that, he eventually ventured, a flicker of sincerity crossing his features. I just hope you haven't forgotten about what we had. And there it was, the lingering specter of their history resurfacing to taunt her with its chaos. A heaviness settled in her chest. How could she carve her own path while he loomed there as a reminder of her struggle to break free? Jenna took a moment to gather her thoughts, knowing this was not just a conversation, but a pivotal confrontation. I haven't forgotten Jake, but what we had is in the past. I need to look forward. Nick glanced at her, a hint of admiration in his eyes, as if he recognized the monumental effort encapsulated in her resolve. Jake shifted uncomfortably, the impact of her words taking root. So you're really going to just move on? Moving on isn't about running away, she insisted, the weight of her conviction resonating. It's about chasing something that truly reflects who I am, not who I used to be. A moment of stillness passed, and she could see the wheels in his mind turning. Would he finally grasp the truth of her strength? But before any clarity could manifest, the potential confrontation was interrupted once more by an unexpected guest, an old colleague of Jake's from work, walking into the cafe. The disruption tore her momentum away, and with it came a surge of uncertainty. As Jenna turned her attention back to Jake, she noticed a fleeting, could she risk it all and firmly place herself on her new journey, even as the allure of her past pulled her into a familiar embrace? Suddenly, the very room felt like an arena of choices, the stakes glaringly evident. Would she rise today, armed with newfound confidence, or would she find herself lost again in the tangled web of what once was? With the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air, the implications of her next choice loomed large. Each direction offered different kinds of growth. Would she be bold enough to seize the unknown, or would she be dragged along by a past that seemed never-ending? As the air grew thick with anticipation, Jenna sensed that this moment could redefine everything. And, in the quiet recess of her mind, a question crystallized. How would she choose to define her freedom? Her heart raced as she prepared for what came next, understanding that every choice demanded a commitment to her evolving self. Would she step into her courage or retreat into her familiar fears? Jenna stood at the crossroads of her life, stronger now than she had ever been. The weight of her past, with Daniel's shadow lingering, began to feel lighter as she embraced the truth of her situation. The unresolved emotions from her abrupt conversation with him had prompted her growth. But now, with Jake's presence igniting a new spark, she faced her next decision with clarity. The cafe buzzed with energy, and as Jake shifted closer, Jenna felt a rush of adrenaline course through her veins. She had already taken a step toward reclaiming her narrative from Daniel. Now, the challenge lay in how she would solidify her journey with Jake, rather than letting fear tether her back to the past. "Jenna," Jake began, his voice steady, a deliberate attempt to navigate their complicated terrain. "I get that things are different for you now, but I want you to know that I'm here to support you. I'm intrigued by this new side of you." His eyes sparkled with sincerity, and with each word, Jenna could feel her resolve strengthen even more, the truth of their potential connection shimmering before her. "I appreciate that," she replied, the words flowing forth. "I didn't know how I would feel after everything with Daniel. But in facing him, I realized something crucial. My happiness is mine to define. I want to explore that with you, only if you're willing." Jake's expression softened with understanding. "You're not binding yourself to me, and that's what I want for us. I'm interested in seeing you flourish, not just romantically, but in every aspect." It was a promise not of pressure, but of partnership. A relationship built on mutual respect and space for growth. Here was a man prepared to walk alongside her as an equal. With assurance simmering in her heart, Jenna dared to take a leap. Then let's take action. The energy in the air shifted. The stakes felt high, yet exhilarating. She wanted to share experiences, challenge each other to grow, and discover what it meant to be together on this journey of self-discovery. Jake was not just a compass guiding her forward, he was a partner, ready to navigate any storm that might arise. Their conversations flowed freely as they mapped out tentative plans. Jenna found herself rediscovering long-buried interests: pottery, hiking, even writing, that spark of creativity she'd stifled for too long. It felt as though she were gently peeling back layers, revealing colors that had been dulled by uncertainty. As she spoke, she felt a newfound confidence swell within her, a reflection of the clarity she had championed moments ago. "I want to take a pottery class," she declared, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "It'd be a great way to get my hands dirty, quite literally." "That sounds amazing. Let's do it together," Jake replied, his excitement infectious. The thought of exploring new interests together galvanized their connection, and soon they settled into a rhythm that felt as though they had been building this friendship for years, even if they were just beginning. As days turned into weeks, moments that began as tentative ideas transformed into exciting plans. Jenna reveled in the independence she had cultivated. She began to transform her classroom, incorporating creative projects inspired by her own past struggles. Students thrived under her renewed passion, mirroring Jenna's growth through their interactions and expressing creativity she once believed was stifled. While she faced challenges, such as a lingering conversation with Daniel that had yet to unfold, Jenna stood firm in her resolve. She recognized those challenging moments for what they were: opportunities to affirm her new path and to define her worth outside the shadows of her past. Meanwhile, her bond with Jake deepened. They shared laughter over clay-covered hands in pottery class, discovered breathtaking trails hiking, and spent countless evenings pouring their thoughts out over shared meals, reflecting on their journeys. The sense of effortless companionship filled Jenna with a sense of fulfillment. Each small step enriched their connection exponentially. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting beautiful shadows across their faces while they ventured through a local art fair, Jenna recognized a shift within her. She was no longer the woman she had been at Daniel's wedding, a passive observer caught in the throes of others' decisions. The growth, empowerment, and assurance radiated through her. "Look at that piece over there," Jake pointed to a striking sculpture. As Jenna turned to see it, she was struck by the realization that she too had been sculpted by her experiences, the pressures, the struggles of claiming her identity, and now the lightness from stepping into newfound love. "I want my own piece to capture this moment," she said, turning to Jake with a determined sparkle in her eye. "I want to create something that reflects who I am now." Jake's expression softened in admiration as he tenderly tilted his head toward her. "I believe you can achieve anything you set your mind to, Jenna." "Look at how far you've come," he affirmed, pride weaving through his words. Jenna smiled back, feeling the warmth of recognition and acceptance envelop her. At that moment, she combined all the disparate pieces of her journey into a unified whole. The shift was monumental. She was ready to embrace this beautiful, chaotic intensity of life. She had decisively moved forward, leaving behind the shackles of expectations. She stood purposefully firm in that very space, a palpable acknowledgement of her journey toward a bright, uncharted future. "Jake," she began, her voice steady with resolve, "I'm ready to create my own narrative, one where I define what happiness means to me. Thank you for being an integral part of that journey." The declaration hung in the air, echoing off the walls of her realization, and as Jake took her hand, Jenna knew she had arrived. She had conquered her past, proven her worth, and established a path aligned with her authentic self. Together, they would continue shaping futures, rich with potential, filled with adventures that awaited on the canvas of life. As they stepped into the evening light, the world felt new again, ripe with opportunities. Jenna embraced the moment, knowing that she had finally carved out her place in it. The journey ahead promised countless possibilities, and with each heartbeat, she felt vibrantly alive. Now, more than ever, it was clear what her next steps would be. She had accomplished growth, overcome pain, and found love in unexpected places. And each moment was a testament to the power of choosing a life lived authentically. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.